My high school bestie crossed the line. She always questioned why I was wearing makeup. Is it for a boy? Why are you wearing it today and not yesterday? Why are you doing it different today? Back in high school, I could never catch a break from her. She was my best friend since middle school, and there were literally zero boundaries between us in her mind. We had the same classes, sang in chorus together, and went to the same church. But even though her questions like these were irksome, it was best to not confront her head-on, which I think I always knew subconsciously, even before knowing what I do now. I have a taciturn and deeply non-confrontational personality, so back then I would rather die than to say the truth, which is to say, I'd never admit to wanting to look attractive out loud, so I'd pretend that I did my makeup absent-mindedly just to end the conversation. We basically did the same song and dance every time I wore makeup. I found that it was just easier to lie. Or, more often than not, just to not wear it. My looks and self-esteem be damned. More than anything, these are the things that I remember about my early high school days. When I think back to all those drawn-out hours with her at school, carpool, chorus events, summer camps, I remember specific things like her questions about my makeup, any changes to my hair, new clothes, etc. And not to sound like a queen bee, but it also seemed like if I bought anything new, she would too. Jewelry, keds, dresses, ringtones for my cell phone. We had plenty of laughs and good times too, but the feelings that have persisted are the ones of insecurity and exhaustion from avoiding being on her bad side. I also remember her being a really tough hang. I couldn't bring any new friends or acquaintances around. She was loud, talkative, and needlessly abrasive to new people. If you looked up RBF in a dictionary, you'd see a picture of her being around someone she didn't know already. She was also an oversharer, especially with gross body stuff, and an overcommunicator. I couldn't log onto AOM without her already being there, literally at all hours of the night. She called anytime she was driving from one place to another, and I learned that it was better to always answer, even if it was terrible timing. One time, I passive-aggressively didn't answer when she called. After 5 minutes, I gave her a call back. She didn't answer, but she returned my call immediately. I didn't answer her again, and then called her right back. Guess what? She didn't answer, but again, she called me right back. We did this back and forth a couple more times. It felt obnoxious in the moment, and even more so in hindsight. I came to the conclusion that she would never answer when I called. She'd only call me. One time I literally couldn't bring myself to answer. I was in one of those moods where I couldn't stomach even a 5-minute conversation, so I texted her and said I couldn't talk and asked what was up. She never texted me back and literally didn't speak to me for an entire week. Apparently, she was going through something and really needed me that day. But honestly, I don't believe that it was anything out of the ordinary. I don't remember what eventually broke the silence between us after that tiff, but I remember feeling happy that we were on speaking terms again. After less than a day, it was like it never happened. Now, to the day that changed everything. It was a normal school day in late April, definitely in that post-spring break season where the sun is shining and it's torture to be cooped up in a classroom. Another one of her quirks is that she had to know what I scored on every test, and likewise would tell me what she scored. It was a frustrating expectation of hers. She had a habit of calling herself an intellectual, without even a hint of irony, mind you. But in truth, she was very, very smart, so she usually scored higher than I did. But one time in English, I aced a test while she got something worse but respectable, like an 87. She asked what I got as soon as the teacher gave me my test back. I pretended not to hear her and put it face down on my desk while I rummaged in my backpack. In a flash, she stood up, reached across and grabbed my test before I knew what was happening. It was all so aggressive and happened so rapidly that I couldn't help but shoot her a nasty what the hell kind of look. I remember us having an uncomfortable beat or two of eye contact, and then her looking at my test, after which her face darkened severely. Whether it was my test result or my honest reaction to her invading my privacy and personal space, I had deeply offended her. What made matters worse is that everyone noticed since it was a sort of violent disruption to a quiet classroom. After that incident, again I got the silent treatment, but this stretched for more than 2 weeks. She was not speaking to me in the mornings at carpool, she skipped chorus events, and at school it was just strange. I would look in her direction and she'd pretend to not notice me. But when I wasn't looking, I could feel her watching me. It was so weird, but I was not in a hurry to mend fences with her. One day after school, I got a text from her. This was so many years, and phones ago, so I don't remember specifics, but it had something to do with a school assignment. There was no apology or warmth, or even an attempt to awkwardly address the situation. The text was so random and I felt like she was fishing for a reaction, so I didn't answer. I wanted to actually have a conversation, and if she couldn't handle that, then I was also fine just moving on. I wasn't going to let her dictate how we were going to resolve things. Later that night, she sent another message on AIM that asked if I saw her text, and also if she could come over right then. I logged off immediately, so I wouldn't feel compelled to answer. It was all really weird. She wasn't at school the next day. I didn't think too much of it except that it was refreshing to not have to ignore her for a full school day. That afternoon, one of our assistant principals showed up to my biology classroom and asked for me to accompany him to the principal's office. My principal began asking me questions about my friend and about her interest in computers, which I didn't know how to answer. I said that she's a whiz at AIM, but that's about all I knew. Turns out my friend had made a hit list naming me directly. My principal had printed it out for me to read, and it was some of the most vulgar things I've ever read. He explained that she tried using an offshore router in her email to the school the day before, but they were able to easily pinpoint her IP address and alert the actual authorities. From there, my recollection gets blurry, but I remember getting a police escort home from school that day with a helicopter overhead and everything. She was sent to juvenile detention and then eventually to a girls-only mental institution in Florida for a short stint. I don't think she was ever formally convicted, but she was expelled. Her family moved that summer a few towns away and enrolled her at a private school. My principal would check in with me randomly from that point until I graduated a few years later. I think he did that because he wanted to let me know that the administration was thinking about me. But I'm sure he was also angling to see if I received any threats, which I thankfully never did. So many years have passed, and I honestly don't think about those days too often. They were confusing and frustrating years, and the meeting with the principal and the fallout with my friend happened in quick succession. Every now and again, I'll see her on social media, and her name comes up here and there in conversations with family or old friends. I'm writing this all to give context. She just messaged me on social media, and I'm not sure what to do. The message sat in my inbox, a small, innocuous notification that carried the weight of 1,000 memories. Seeing her name after all these years sent a jolt through me, a mix of curiosity and apprehension. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen, unsure whether to open it or let it remain unread, a ghost from the past. I decided to take a walk, hoping the fresh air would clear my mind and help me decide how to respond. As I strolled through the familiar streets of my neighborhood, memories of high school flooded back, each one a vivid reminder of the tumultuous friendship we had shared. I thought about the early days, when we were inseparable, bound by shared interests and the naive belief that our friendship would last forever. We had laughed together, confided in each other, and navigated the ups and downs of adolescence side by side. But beneath the surface, there had always been an undercurrent of tension, a sense that our friendship was built on shaky ground. Her constant questioning, her need to know every detail of my life, had been exhausting. I had often felt like I was walking on eggshells, careful not to upset the delicate balance of our relationship. And then there was the incident with the test, the moment when everything had come crashing down. I remembered the look in her eyes when she saw my score, the way her expression had shifted from curiosity to anger in an instant. It was as if I had crossed an invisible line, one I hadn't even known existed. Her silence in the weeks that followed had been both a relief and a source of anxiety, a reminder of how easily our friendship could unravel. And then, of course, there was the hit list. The memory of sitting in the principal's office, reading those hateful words, was still seared into my mind. It had been a wake-up call, a stark reminder that the person I thought I knew was capable of something far darker than I had imagined. As I walked, I tried to reconcile the person she had been with the person she might be now. Years had passed, and people change. Perhaps she had reached out to apologize, to make amends for the pain she had caused. Or maybe she simply wanted to reconnect, to see if there was any hope of salvaging what we once had. By the time I returned home, I had made up my mind. I would open the message, but I would proceed with caution. I owed it to myself to hear what she had to say, but I also needed to protect myself from any potential harm. With a deep breath, I sat down at my computer and opened the message. Her words were tentative, almost hesitant, as if she were unsure how to begin. She wrote about how much she had changed, how she had spent years in therapy working through her issues. She expressed regret for the way things had ended between us and apologized for the pain she had caused. She also mentioned that she had been thinking about reaching out for a long time, but had been too afraid of how I might react. She hoped that we could at least have a conversation, if not to rekindle our friendship, then to find closure and understanding. As I read her message, I felt a complex mix of emotions: relief, anger, curiosity, and a glimmer of hope. Her words seemed genuine, and I could sense the vulnerability behind them. But I also knew that I needed to be careful, to set boundaries and protect myself from any potential fallout. I decided to respond, keeping my tone neutral but open. I thanked her for reaching out and acknowledged the courage it must have taken to do so. I agreed to have a conversation, but I made it clear that I needed to take things slowly to ensure that I was comfortable with whatever path we chose to take. Over the next few weeks, we exchanged messages, each one a step toward understanding and healing. We talked about the past, the things we had both experienced and learned since then. She shared her journey of self-discovery and growth, and I shared my own struggles and triumphs. Through our conversations, I began to see her not as the person she had been in high school, but as someone who had grown and changed, just as I had. It was a reminder that people are capable of transformation, that the mistakes of the past do not have to define us. In time, we decided to meet in person, choosing a neutral location where we could talk openly and honestly. As I sat across from her, I saw the familiar features of my old friend, but also the signs of someone who had been through a lot and come out stronger on the other side. Our conversation was candid and heartfelt, a chance to lay old ghosts to rest and find a sense of closure. We both acknowledged the pain of the past, but also the potential for a new beginning, whether as friends or simply as two people who had once shared a significant part of their lives. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of peace and resolution. The past was behind us, and the future was open to whatever possibilities we chose to create. Whether or not we became friends again, I knew that I had taken an important step toward healing and growth. In the end, the experience taught me the value of forgiveness and the power of change. It reminded me that while the past shapes us, it doesn't have to define us, and that sometimes the most important journey is the one we take within ourselves. After our conversation, I felt a sense of lightness that I hadn't experienced in years. It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders, allowing me to breathe more freely. The conversation with my old friend had been cathartic, a necessary step in moving forward and letting go of the past. In the days that followed, I reflected on everything we had discussed. Our conversation had been a revelation, offering insights into her struggles and the reasons behind her actions all those years ago. It was clear that she had worked hard to confront her demons and make amends for the hurt she had caused. I found myself thinking about the nature of forgiveness and the capacity for change. It was a reminder that people are not static, that we are all capable of growth and transformation. The experience had taught me the importance of empathy and understanding, of seeing beyond the surface to the complexities that lie beneath. As for our relationship, we decided to take things one step at a time. We both agreed that rebuilding trust would take time and effort, and that it was important to respect each other's boundaries. We started by meeting for coffee every few weeks, using these moments to catch up and continue the dialogue we had begun. Our meetings were relaxed and informal, a chance to share stories and laughter without the pressure of expectation. We talked about our lives, our dreams, and the paths we had taken since high school. It was a gradual process, but with each meeting, I felt more at ease, more willing to let go of the past and embrace the possibility of a renewed friendship. Outside of our meetings, I focused on my own journey of self-discovery. The experience had prompted me to reevaluate my relationships and priorities, to consider what truly mattered to me. I spent more time with family and friends, nurturing the connections that brought joy and meaning to my life. I also took up new hobbies, exploring interests that I had long neglected. Whether it was painting, hiking, or learning to play an instrument, these activities provided a sense of fulfillment and creativity that enriched my days. As the months passed, I noticed a change in myself, a newfound confidence and resilience that had emerged from the challenges I had faced. I felt more grounded, more in tune with who I was and what I wanted from life. In time, my old friend and I found a comfortable rhythm, a friendship that was different from what we had shared in high school, but no less meaningful. We had both grown and changed, and our relationship reflected that growth, built on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Looking back, I realized that the journey we had taken was not just about forgiveness and reconciliation, but about embracing the complexities of life and the people we encounter along the way. It was a reminder that even the most difficult experiences can lead to growth and transformation, and that the future is always open to new possibilities.
Thank you for watching. Write comments, put likes. Do not forget to watch other videos.